And at this stage, we're going to have a little discussion with a 30-minute discussion with Sitar Deli, really from the Connect Ventures. And Sitar, you ready? Let's join the stage and let's give one big applause and discuss about investing. Big applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Perfect. Warmly welcome.
Okay.
Great. And you have now all time, all good. So let's do a chat afterwards. Good. Enjoy.
It's just gonna be on.
Little
Okay.
one.
Oh, how do I?
Good.
Yeah, but now like I can hear myself.
It's the wrong one. Just keep on talking. Is it the right microphone?
Test.
Is this okay?
Hello?
Yes. Good.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about why a UX focus is good for business. But first, a little bit about myself. So
Hi.
I'm
Nice to meet
American.
you.
I live in London,
Nice to meet you.
36, and I've been a VC for 10 years. I was previously with another venture fund where I led the A round in SoundCloud, which is now one of the largest music platforms in the world. And then 4.5 years ago, my partners and I started Connect Ventures.
So the points are just
it's a London-based seed fund. We invest across Europe. We write checks of 500,000 to £1 million.
So
we've made 26 investments, and you can see some of them on the right side there.
If you have some favorites,
and we recently closed our second fund. And the strategy of the second fund is the same as that of the first fund. And so what is that strategy? We have a pretty focused seed strategy. We make 8 to 10 investments per year. We like to lead deals, and we're often the first money in, and sometimes the only money in.
And
there are sort of 3 things we look for before we even consider meeting with the company.
Could you spread
so one is really strong founder market fit. The second is mission-led founders. And finally, it's focus on product and user experience from the beginning. Now, the first 2 are pretty common. A lot of VCs look for that. The third is a bit more unusual. So I'm going to talk more about why that is and why we think it's actually the best thing a business can focus on at the beginning, but really throughout the company's life. But first, what is user experience? The quote there, I think, captures it pretty well. So user experience is any part of a company, product, or service that a user or customer interacts with. That's pretty comprehensive. The best way I like to think about a user experience-focused company is it's a company that puts the user at the center of everything that they do and when they design. So whether it's marketing strategy, user interface, a feature set, or the customer service experience, they think about the user at the center of that design process. Now, that may sound really obvious, but I actually think very, very few companies really put user experience as the center of what they do, and even fewer do it well. And I'm sure you guys can think about many experiences you've had where you've used a product that was poorly designed or confusing to use. I think there's actually many, many more examples of really poor user experience out there than there is of really good user experience. So why do we think about user experience, and specifically product user experience, so much? So whatever you're building, whether it's a B2B SaaS company, a marketplace, social network, a mobile commerce app, most likely your starting point is you build a product. And that product has a user experience. And for most companies, their customers and users, the first and primary interaction they have with the company is through the product. So our thesis is the better the user experience of that product, the better the KPIs and business metrics of the company will be. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why that is in a little bit. First, why do we focus on it so early? Why do we focus on it at seed? Why not look at a business model or market size or network effects? And the answer is we actually look at all of those things. We just think even if you're in a great market, and even if you have an amazing business model, if you have a poor product, none of it really matters, because it's going to be extremely difficult for you to long-term build an engaged user base. But it's actually more than that. The reason we focus on it at seed is because I think companies have a DNA, and that DNA is set very early. So the culture of a company, how it thinks about customers, how it thinks about its marketing strategy, how it thinks about its product design process, all of that is encoded by founders at a very, very early stage in the company. It's really in the first few weeks, first few months of the company. And DNA is a really, really hard thing to change in a company. So our view is we can't really invest in companies where they focus on, for example, marketing first and user experience in 2 years, because we've never actually seen that be a successful strategy. If you don't make user experience the center of what you do really early, it'll never become the center of what you do. So these are some of the products that we've invested in. The top 2 are consumer. CityMapper is a transport planning app. Oxy is a music creation sequencer from Stockholm, so it's the closest thing we have to Finland geographically. The bottom 3 are B2B products. And they're all companies that have, from the very, very early stages, focused on delivering an amazing user experience through their product. And some of them have done it with shockingly little resources. So Oxy, for example, is still 3 people. And they have several million downloads on iPad and iPhone. So it's really quite a scalable strategy. But this doesn't really explain why it makes business sense to focus on user experience. So to explain why we think that and why we think there's an excellent return, I'm gonna use an example of one of our portfolio companies. So Typeform is based in Barcelona. It's about 105 people now. When we invested, it was significantly less. Just last year, in June, they raised a $15 million Series A, which was one of the highest A rounds, certainly one of the highest in Spain ever. And what they do is they make software that lets people make forms and surveys. These are forms. These are surveys. These are not type forms. These are incredibly ugly. They're not mobile friendly. They're pretty miserable experiences. They're horrible to fill out. But they're surveys, and they are what existed before Typeform. These are type forms. These are the same things as the previous slide. They're both surveys. The difference in a Typeform is visually engaging, it's mobile friendly, it's touch friendly. It really thinks about the future of computer interaction, human-computer interaction. And when you compare these two, they're really doing the same thing, right? They're both asking people questions. The difference is the founders of Typeform, David and Robert, they're both designers. And when they were setting out to build Typeform, what they said is, what is a survey? Right? A survey is a series of questions you ask someone. And asking questions is a very human thing. So to properly design a company that builds surveys and forms, you have to put humans at the center of that design process. Right? It's a very human thing to ask someone a question. Now that's very warm and fuzzy and kind of fluffy. It doesn't really talk about the business aspect of why this makes sense. So they clearly look a lot better, and they're probably a lot more enjoyable to take as surveys than these things are, which look like they were designed for robots, by the way. But what is the business aspect of it? Well, for starters, the completion rate of Typeform is 4 times that of other forms and surveys. So, you're a company, you're looking to put a survey out, you need 1,000 responses. You could send out a Typeform to 2,000 people and have more than enough. If you use one of the other products, you have to send out 8,000. So just think about the sheer number of email addresses and people you need to contact to get to the same result rate. You can see why Typeform has a compelling business use case for all of its customers, which is great for the customers and users of Typeform, but it's also great for Typeform itself because that's a compelling business reason to use it over any of its competitors. But what are the other valuable aspects of focusing on user experience so early? For starters, people really love the product. They obsess over it. They speak about it in terms you normally reserve for a loved one, a human being, right? They get excited about little things like the fact that it released a mobile app, that they redesigned their blog. I don't know many companies where the users get excited that the company redesigned their blog. And the result of this is the engagement of Typeform customers is phenomenally high. The loyalty these customers have is extremely high. And the virality has been the main growth engine of the company. For every 89 Typeforms sent out, a new user signs up. The company has grown entirely through a growth engine that is the product. And if you think about the cost benefits of that as a company, you can see that focusing on user experience has had very strong knock-on effects. But there's others, many others. When you think about what a company wants, what do they really want, other than to achieve their amazing mission, which is what we all want? What does it mean in terms of the KPIs and business metrics? What you want is more signups and conversions, higher engagement rates. You want virality. You want to be able to grow through your product, through your users talking about your product. You want to have a strong brand that people love, that's resilient to any problems you may have in the future. And you want revenue. And what do you not want? What you not want is churn or cost or customer complaints. And when you think about this from a user experience standpoint, think about a product, think about the negative, right? Which is, I have a poor product with a poor user experience. It's confusing to use. I'm going to get questions simply about how to use the product. That's customer service that you really shouldn't be dealing with. I'm going to get frustrated customers that don't like me very much because I've given them a product that maybe should be solving a problem they have, but is so bad at it that they're actually upset. They could say that that's actually a good thing. It means you know you're solving a problem. But if you're solving it badly, that's not actually that great. And eventually you have to get to the point where you're solving it really well. But the positive aspects of it are where we focus on, right? So when you do focus on this stuff, every single one of these KPIs improves at a lower cost than anything else. It is one of the most scalable things you can focus on. It's extremely challenging because there isn't a playbook out there. But when you center your company around user experience, you'll find that every single one of these metrics improves tremendously. In fact, the business case for focusing on user experience is so obvious and so apparent in the metrics of the businesses that do it that I find it quite frustrating when companies don't do it. Not just as an investor, but actually as a consumer. I actually only have a minute left, so I'll just wrap up. One thing to say is it's not a cure-all, it's not magic. So just because you have a great product with a great user experience doesn't mean that's it. It's just a really great starting point. You still have to think about what is the UX of your marketing strategy, your pricing, your distribution model, your customer service experience. All of that still matters. So it's not a cure-all. We just think it's the best starting point a company can have. And long-term success, if you start with product and user experience at your core, and you build all the other functions of the company around it, and with that same philosophy in mind, you have the best chance for long-term success. And that's it. I think we have 40 seconds for questions, so I'm guessing we don't have time for questions.
Let's give a big applause, ladies and gentlemen. Sitar. Very good. Thank you very much. Awesome theme. We're definitely looking forward to see more solutions. Do you see that, let's say, Finns often say that, why didn't Apple come from Finland? We're engineers and we love the Scandinavian straight design. So how do you see, especially the Scandinavian Nordic design in this field as well?
So we're big fans of Scandinavian Nordic design, especially on the digital front. So we've invested in one company so far based in Stockholm, just called Oxy. And actually, the founders of SoundCloud were Swedish as well. So we're definitely big fans of Scandinavian design. I think it actually is one of the strengths of the area. And I'm looking forward to seeing more and more companies come out of it with that philosophy.
Excellent. Well, definitely. We're running out of time, but thank you so much for sharing these views. Definitely, most of the entrepreneurs here will take that with us. And we're going to continue with the pitches. So thank you so much. And let's have a good Arctic 15. OK, one more applause, ladies and gentlemen.